Good evening and hello everyone. It's Jean with Captain Stitches and it is time for a tutorial to share with you all. So, welcome into my stitching cottage this evening while I share with you a quick little tutorial on a cute little quilt called Charming Lucy. And this is one of the quilts that I will be using during my first annual Quilt for Charity Marathon by Captain Stitches Heartfully Given. So I just wanted to be able to share with you how that is constructed and put together for those of you who may wish to join us tomorrow night on my channel via Zoom. We'll have some others guests up on the panel with me, also stitching on Quilts for Charity during that time. And it is, yes, tomorrow, Sunday, the 25th, from 1 to 7 p.m. A marathon where we hope to get as many quilts quilted for charity by those of us on the panel and those of you joining along in the chat along with us. You may be stitching at home, stitching with a group, who knows? But we hope many of you share in that time for making a quilt to donate to charity. So let's get right with it. And I will turn on my other little guest that you know I always have on with me, which is the cutting and pressing area where I share with you what I am doing. And this is a photo of the quilt that I will be doing the tutorial on this evening. And of course, underneath there, I have the supplies that are going to be needed for the quilt. But right behind me is one that has already been completed, and you can see the majority of that right there. Turns out really cute, and I'll see if I can bring that up just a little closer for you to get a better view of how that turns out and what a cute little quilt it makes. And we will leave that there as the sample. And I have to be careful because Stitches is right underneath my feet, underneath the sewing desk here this evening as I do this. But what are you going to need to make this quilt? Very little in the form of supplies. You are going to need one charm pack, which this is the one. It might help if I do have that camera on. I'm sorry. This is the charm pack that I have chosen, and it is Vintage Flora by Maywood Studio. Has some beautiful squares in it. That's what I will be using. And then you are going to need 5/6 of a yard, might as well say a yard, of a solid fabric for your background. And you will need 1 1/8 yards of fabric for your backing, a 1/3 yard for your binding, and a 37 by 37 piece of batting. That's all you need to make this cute little quilt. And then you are going to, because there are 42 squares in this charm pack and you only need 36, you are going to remove 6 charms that have the least contrast with what you have chosen for your background fabric. And I have already removed, as you can see, that would not make very much of a contrast there. So I have removed the 2 solid appearing charm squares that are with that. And then I chose to remove the really lighter ones that are in 3 of the colorways that are also with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess I need to remove 1 more, don't I? Just recounted that and I thought, well, that's not, oh, there's another one hiding under there. There's 6 there that I have removed. Alrighty. And then what you are going to do is this pattern will be available in the link in the description box below, and it will also be available to those who are members of my private Facebook group, Kept in Stitches and Friends. Excuse me there. And I believe it will also be in my charity Facebook group, which is Threads of Kept in Stitches, Heartfully Given. You'll be able to find it in those 3 places. It is designed by Andy Knowlton and can be found also at www.abrightcorner.com. So that is the information for that. So I have removed the 6 charms I'm not going to be using. You are going to do all your subcuts of your background fabrics. I'm not going to go over that because that is self-explanatory in the instructions. But you are going to have all these little squares, 72 of them to be exact, that you are going to be piecing onto the corners of each one of your charm squares. So I am going to remove the wrapper off that, and you are going to need, let me scoot this up so I can just quickly show you how I do this. It's very easy, but you are going to be drawing a diagonal line across the back of all these little squares because that is what you will be sewing on the corners. And I use a sandpaper board for that so that the fabric does not shift or move on me while drawing that diagonal line. So you're just going to take, and on all 72 of your little squares, you are going to draw that diagonal line from corner to corner. It may take a little while on 72, so I did do some of those previously before coming on to do this tutorial to save time. I don't think you want to sit there and watch me draw a diagonal corner on all 72 of those. So I'm going to set those aside that are not done. We'll put those up there for right now. And we are going to bring in our other guest this evening, which of course is the sewing machine. So you can see and follow along as I piece these on. So I'm going to take one of my charm squares and I am going to take 2 of my squares with the diagonal lines that are, we'll get that. Okay. We'll lay it up here where you can see it better. But we are going to take and we are going to put these right sides together. And it helps if you turn your square at a diagonal so you make sure that you get those positioned properly, because you're going to do that on opposite corners of your charm square. And then you're going to take it over to your sewing machine and you're going to sew on that diagonal line that you have drawn. And as I said, you are going to do that to each one of your charm squares. And Stitches has covered up my foot pedal to the sewing machine there. I had to scoot her over a little bit. So make sure that I have my sewing machine set up correctly here. And I am going to stitch actually just a thread or 2 to the right of that diagonal line. And you could chain piece all these. I'm not going to do that right now. I am going to do a few so that we will have enough to put a block together. And we shifted just a little there for the reason that that always happens every time I hit the go live button. Except there is no go live button tonight. This is being recorded. I guess it knows that too. Helps if we flip that the right way. And just to be on the safe side, we are going to rethread the machine. It sometimes jumps out of that upper loop up there. My fingers aren't working. There we go. Pull our bottom thread back up. Trim that off. We don't want all that excess thread hanging out there. And we will put that under there once more and continue on. And we're going to set that to the side and do a few more so that we have a good mixture to be able to choose from for our putting together our blocks. Doing them all in the same way. Fun little quilt. And I don't think I told you, it finishes out to, I think, approximately 35 inches by 35 inches. So it is a very nice size for a baby quilt. And of course, if you wanted to make it larger, you'd have no problem doing that by using 2 charm packs instead of 1 and adding to the amount of yardage that you use for your background fabric. It would be very easy to enlarge it. Make it any size you want. Would also be great for using some of your leftover stash. If you have leftover 5-inch squares, 5-inch strips. All you need is 36 of them. Well, for the small one, you would need more than that, of course, for a larger one, but a great little scrap busting project as well. And what better way to put those scraps to use than being able to give someone the gift of a warm, comfortable hug by donating a quilt. We are just going to keep on with some of these. As I'm going to need, I'm going to drop down here deeper in the pile and get a different one so we have something else to work with here instead of the same colors. So I'll be able to put together a block for you. Oops, make sure we have that turned the correct way. Don't remember when I made the other one right over here, but I believe that, you can very easily cut your background fabrics out and make all your subcuts and still be able to get that quilt made up and ready to be quilted in one day. Because like I said, you could be very quickly chain piecing all these squares onto each one of these blocks, which would also save time. But for purposes of getting enough done to make a block for you to see, I will complete that off camera. Because you get the general idea now of how this is going to turn out. I'm going to try and get one of the other colors with the flowers on it here. See what we end up coming up with. Have a nice variety to choose from. I have shared a tutorial on the scrappy pinwheel quilt. I have shared in one of my lives the making of the tumbler quilt, and have also shared the making of the 4-patch quilt. And those are all cute, sized, quick and easy to make quilts for using for charity. So you have several choices that you will be able to choose from to make a quilt to donate to charity if you wish to join in on that with us or at any time. Now we are going to take, as you see, and we are going to trim the outside portion off of those squares that we just sewed on, and we are going to do that a 1/4 inch away from the diagonal line. And I just always love using my half square triangle for that because it's very easy to line up and small to use. And I do not throw those away. I keep those and sew those into half square triangles to use somehow in another quilt at some point in time. But you're going to have a piece that looks like that after you trim all them. And I'm going to go ahead and trim enough so that we have what we need for putting a block together. And then you are going to have to take and press these all to the outside. And I'm just kind of tossing those over there. Don't normally do that. I have a little bag I normally put them in, but we will just make sure that I have them out of my way. And I just replaced the blade in my rotary cutter. I was using it earlier and I thought, boy, doesn't seem to be cutting too well anymore. So now I have a nice sharp blade again, and I can just whiz through these. Always important to change the blade in your rotary cutter, change the needle in your sewing machine, clean your bobbin area. All important things to maintain. So you have a joyful quilting experience. This is the last one to trim. And now we are going to, and I should have checked that a little sooner. Get my back in there. Of course, automatic shutoffs on an iron, they always seem to be shut off right when you want to use them. I'm going to set those up out of the way. We are going to need some of these, but I will fold those over as I need them. And I'm going to need to remove my cutting mat for just a second. Don't want to press on that because we are going to be pressing these out now as soon as the iron heats back up. But and we will be taking all these and we will be pressing them outward. And you can see how that forms our block. Making sure, yes, that we're only doing that on 2 of the corners. Beautiful color on this fabric. It's really pretty fabric. It was charm squares that were on Fat Quarter Shop's flash sale that I purchased because the price was really good. And I thought, oh, I will be able to use those for charity quilts. So I purchased, I think, 4 packs of them. But so there we have our squares now, and we are going to need 4 of them to make a block. So I am going to choose 4. Oh, let me see. What do we want to do? Well, we definitely don't want the same one, but I don't want too much of the same thing in there either. We're going to see how this is going to work. We do want those coming together in the middle. I wanted these 2 opposite each other, not next to each other. So let's move that down this way instead. That looks better. We want, well, that's not going to work though with that. Well, let me see here. Let me think about this. I don't like that combination. We'll keep playing with it. If we had more made right now, we wouldn't have to worry about that. Aha. Somebody out there was yelling, "Turn it around, Jean." We want all the yellow going towards the center. We get playing a little and then we're not looking exactly at what we're doing. And I think that looks all right. There's going to be a lot of blocks going on in that. So that layout is just fine with me. And now we are going to take and we are going to flip these over. And we are going to sew the top and the bottom of the block together. And I was just double checking to make sure that I do have those laid out correctly. I don't want to step on the little doggy under here. For some reason, she just loves to be underneath my feet. I'm just going to chain piece those. Make sure that we have those lined up correctly. And we are going to take this over to the sewing machine and we are going to press those seams open. And this one as well. We are going to put it back the way that we had that laid out. And now we are going to flip this over and we are going to stitch the center seam together. And I am going to pin that to make sure it does not move. Make sure everything is lining up here correctly. Where our little points are coming together. And now we will sew that center seam. Remove the pins. We don't want to sew over those. And now we are going to take that over and we are also going to press that seam open as well. Give everything on the back, just one final little good press. Flip it over and we're going to press from the front there too, just real quick to make sure it's lying flat. And this is what your block is going to end up looking like. Turns out rather pretty, doesn't it? And you will have 36. You will end up with 9 blocks. It is put 3 across by 3 down. And so you will have 3 of these made. You will sew them together with your, let me grab them. You will have your strip in between each one of those, just like is on this quilt. We will bring this up so you can see how that is put together. But you will be making all of these blocks, and then you will be sewing one of your sashing strips between each one of the blocks in the row. You will then have one on top of each row, and you will have a long one below each row. And that will complete your quilt. Very quick and easy. So it will actually have that going across the bottom, all the way across the row. Once you have the row together, that is a long sashing strip that goes the length of the row. So very easy, very quick, very cute quilt to make. Love the name of it, Charming Lucy. But so I hope that you have enjoyed this quick tutorial on the construction as we go ahead and remove those. On the construction of those cute little blocks out of charm squares that are used for making the Charming Lucy, which is an awesome free pattern that you can use for making quilts for charity donation. And you may be asking, what may be some of the places that you can donate a quilt for charity? Well, some of the places would be your children's hospital, cancer treatment centers, foster care, children in foster care, veterans centers, even Meals on Wheels would be awesome for those that are homebound to receive with one of their meals at certain times of the year, a gift of a small quilt. You can donate to your local police department, fire department, EMT departments, and they will then have those to be able to distribute when they go out on calls that would have someone that has been in a traumatized situation, kids, that type of thing, to be able to have something to give to help them going through that time. And also, I like to give to the homeless, and they are also aware of where most of the homeless where they hang out, and they are able to safely get those donations distributed to them then as well. And of course, nursing homes are always good, or assisted living. They are always loving, a warm, comfortable hug, something of that sort. And then Project Linus is one that accepts quilts and crocheted Afghans, fleece blankets, that type of thing. And you can usually, most of your Joann fabric stores are a drop-off center for Project Linus. Just check to make sure before you take them there. But any local charity that you may be aware of in your area is a great place to make and donate charity quilts to. So thank you. I hope that this has inspired you to make a cute little quilt for charity, and I hope that many of you will be joining me tomorrow during the first annual Quilt for Charity Marathon by Captain Stitch's Heartfully Given. Take care, everyone, and remember, in the meantime, I can keep you in stitches. Bye-bye.